All right, let's call this Oscoda Township regular board meeting to order. It's January 10th at 7:01. We'll start by saying the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Recording in progress.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's start with roll call, please, Judge.
Mr. Cummings? Here. Ms. McGuire?
Here.
Mr. Spencer?
Present.
Mr. Palmer?
Here.
Mr. Sutton here. Mr. Wusterbarth?
Present.
Ms. Richards?
Here. Okay. Do we have any agenda additions this evening? Okay. Hearing none. Moving on to next on the agenda, first is the public hearing for the Oscoda Township Parks and Recreation Plan. We need a motion to open up that public hearing.
I'll make a motion that we open up the public hearing for the Township Parks and Recreation Plan.
I'll support that.
Okay. There's a motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Palmer to open the public hearing. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings? Yes. Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes. Okay, we are now in the public hearing part of the agenda. Again, we're here to discuss the Oscoda Township Parks and Recreation Plan. Nicole is here. She's going to be doing a brief presentation, I'm assuming. We haven't really gone over that. But then we would probably have some questions or comments from the public. Again, if there's public comment, the only thing you are to comment on during this section of the agenda would be what we're discussing, which is the Parks and Recreation Plan. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so everybody, can you hear me? Do I need to be closer? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So you should have the Parks and Recreation Plan in your packet. And we contracted with Beckett and Rader to write the township plan for us. The plan went through the required public hearing. It received public comment. We had a community input session at the end of September. And it was sent to the County Planning Commission, and their 30-day review period has expired. So this is the final step in the process. I'm asking for final approval from the board so that we can get the plan submitted to the MDNR before February 1st, which is the deadline for this year.
All right. I guess we could start by, does anybody from the board have any comments or
Questions? Or anybody else want to go first or got any questions?
Nope.
So in the Parks and Rec plan, the Furtoff Field is no longer listed where it has been listed in the past. I know that we had several meetings at the Warrior Pavilion that included the public, and they did drawings and different things that of what they would like to see there. The majority of the drawings at the first meeting, there was 7, I believe, and 5 out of the 7 drawings had Furtoff listed as a park and no buildings on it. So I'm curious to who decided that Furtoff Field was not going to be in the parks plan?
At the November meeting with the public hearing, the Planning Commission approved the plan without Furtoff Field in it.
Was Furtaw not in there because it's listed as a disposable property and it can't be in there, or it messes with our grant abilities?
That's my understanding.
So, yes, Furtaw is not in there because it is, it was listed as disposable. It is a commercial property, and in our master plan, the 2021 master plan, if you look under the future land use for the township, it is listed as central business. It goes with the whole State Street Business Neighborhood District. So it is included in that future land use map as well for development. And from what I understand, that is the reason the township wanted to purchase Furtaw Field. I have some letters here between the township and the school board, their intention for Furtaw Field was commercial development.
If we decide not to do commercial development, we can put it back in, make it non-disposable, and put it into the parks plan.
Correct. It can go back into the Parks and Recreation Plan at any time. It's if we put it in there and because it is disposable, if we sold it, then that could hurt our future grant opportunities for other properties. So if it were in there and it sold, then yeah, it would hurt that opportunity. But it not being in there is not hurting our grant opportunities for if we want to go out on something on the beach park or Riverbank Park or whatever, then we are able to. If the board decided at some point to not make it disposable and turn that resolution around, it can be added at any point to the plan, it can be amended.
So you would still be able to get grant funding at that point for it?
Yes.
Thank you.
Is the outdoor sports complex property identified currently on the EIC website as being disposable?
I don't know the answer to that.
The base?
That we thought it was for sale. I guess my question is that on the list of disposable properties or not? Properties for
The sports
disposition?
complex?
Mhm.
I don't know. Looking at Todd.
Oh, I don't know if you could answer that. I thought that there was actually a brochure for future development out on the, if in fact, you know, with the spaceport and so on. I thought that was actually identified on,
It was part of a packet we took and presented to the Alabama organization or their conference that they held in 2020, I believe. So while we promoted that property and another industrial property adjacent to the airport, we promoted them as potential opportunities. The sports complex is not classified, in my opinion, as disposable.
okay, so we didn't, I should have probably checked on that before I asked the question if it was listed. I just know that I've seen sale flyers on
Yeah,
it,
we're
so.
promoting it as an opportunity.
Okay, but we haven't actually, I just
Made
was
it
wondering
disposable.
the difference between the two.
So it's not a disposable property right now?
Correct.
We haven't
So
acted.
I was pretty sure it was in this plan when I was reading through it.
I guess that was my question, Jeremy,
Yeah.
is it's listed in the plan.
Right.
And I know that I've seen advertisements for it to possibly be for sale, so I guess I was just wondering what the difference was between when we're talking about between Furtaw.
Yeah, okay.
That's my question. So,
Cool.
Other questions?
anybody on the board? And we'll open it up to, we have a few people here in the audience as well as people zoomed in, so. Is there anybody in the room that has a comment for the public hearing for the? Okay. If you could, yeah, stand and go to the podium, Linda. Even though I know your name, I'm going to make you state it. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Linda Slaggert, and I'm a resident of Oscoda, and I've lived or owned property here since 2002. I spent the better part of yesterday reviewing your Parks and Recreation Plan of the Master Plan. I found it very impressive. And going forward, it looks like this community and board has many exciting challenges ahead over the next 5 years. The only real issue I had regarding it was the survey sample that determined so many of the results. I'm certain that the survey gathering was difficult because of communication issues due to COVID. But a sample of 325 people represents only 4% of our population. And so, in my opinion, it's not a totally valid sample. And the results then are not completely reliable. From everything that I've ever learned about statistics, and Mr. Cummings and I were involved in writing an earlier survey in this community, a sample has to be at least 15% of the population and represent the entire community, and the results must be able to be duplicated in order to be valid. It's just a point I wanted to bring up in the overall scheme of things, and something that I noticed that kind of stood out to me. And I wanted to let you know that was my opinion on that. The information in the plan also brought up some memories and questions to me. It is not my nature to dwell on the past, but I do want people to know that certain things from the past should not be forgotten, and that these have paved the way for future development, specifically for a new community center for Oscoda Township. It was a mere 3.5 years ago that our previous recreation center, the community center, was sold for $295,000 to Coletta Air in June of 2019. In a township board meeting shortly after that sale, it was stated by Ms. McGuire that the proceeds from the sale would be earmarked for future development of a new community center. The proceeds would be, in effect, saved for the future. There were other statements made regarding the property lease maintenance fund, which annually covered the losses incurred at the community center, also being used for a future community center. At that time, this fund had a value of somewhere around $2 million. The superintendent at that time was Mr. Dave Schaefer. These were verbal commitments, but to my knowledge, nothing was formally ever put in writing. That is why I have to ask if those proceeds still exist, and I'm not expecting an answer tonight. So that when a feasibility study does take place, the people we have hired to do the study, Beckett and Rader, have full disclosure and will know all of the information regarding cost and value of such a facility. I am asking to somehow be involved in this kind of study, whether it is a part of an adjunct citizens committee or in some other way that I could be helpful. I know there are others in this community that would also appreciate the opportunity to serve. Finally, I want to address the term recreation center that is spoken about in the plan. To me, that term is very limiting right off the bat. A community center is just that, a place where a community can gather, recreate, learn, share, engage, enjoy, and socialize. What we had was a place where all ages, backgrounds, socioeconomic status was embraced. We could play basketball, racquetball, pool, ping pong, pickleball, weight lift, spin, do aerobics, do yoga, have a meeting, learn a craft or new skill, have a birthday party or a cup of coffee, roller skate, have a concert, watch a movie, have a family fun fair, and in other words, act like a community of stakeholders, all in a safe and caring environment. It was a living, breathing space that brought about a dynamic that unified our community. That is what I hope the people doing this feasibility study will not ever lose sight of. Again, if there is anything that I can do to assure that this will happen, I am willing to put in the effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I should have also pointed out that you are not limited to 4 minutes during this, so there's not a timer, so, yeah. So, yeah, yep. Slider, S-L-A-G-G-E. Okay. Kathy?
Hi, Kathy Boosterbar, 7270 Shoreview Drive. I participated in the Planning Commission review of the Parks and Rec plan, actually in the last 5 years, prior to the prior creation for the Spicer plan. But I agree with Linda. I think the plan was done very well. I'm very impressed by Beckett and Rader's abilities to capture what we wanted. There were some things that I wanted to mention. First of all is the deadline that we're working with. This year I've been, or in 2021, I was really concerned about how close we are getting to this deadline of February 1st that Nicole just mentioned. I mentioned it earlier in the year to the board that I was hoping that the Planning Commission or whoever needed to decide that this process gets started earlier so that we're not 2 weeks out, that we're kind of short. If something goes wrong tonight, we're kind of in a bad situation. So I would like to, in the future, to see this Parks and Rec plan that I think is very important to our community start earlier in the process in terms of last year. So just wanted to mention that again. One of the areas that's really important to me, I'm with the Needle Water Community Action Group in terms of PFAS effects in our community, is the Ratliff Park, which is listed as a park, and it's included in our inventory. Beckett and Rader and the Planning Commission included the concerns that I had about the do not touch the foam warnings that are listed at the park. One of the things that the do not touch the foam warning says is that if you do touch the foam, then you should rinse it off. And at this point, our Ratliff Park has a foot washing station, but it doesn't have an outdoor shower. And I asked that that be included in the plan so that we could get that shower so that people could rinse off that foam if they were to come in contact, like the health department recommends, be included in the Parks and Rec plan in terms of projects, and I did not see that listed at the end there. It's still omitted from the Ratliff Park process. And I do think that that should be done this year in 2022. It is reflected in the Oscoda Beach Park plans, but not in Ratliff Park. So if you would keep that in mind in terms of the draft. And then the other thing I want to mention is something that I think is very exciting to the Oscoda community. If we do intend and actually are successful with linking the snowmobile and ORV trail system to Oscoda, that is a great economic opportunity for our community in terms of that trail that ends right now in Asable or sort of near the McQuaig Park area or Grass Lake Road area, and really keeping those snowmobilers from coming into our community. So that's a very important part of our plan that I believe has been added, and I hope it's clarified. And it sounds like there were some things in the works that I'm not necessarily familiar with that is looking at that. So it is a great plan, and I'm proud of the Planning Commission and Nicole for jumping in at the last minute here since she's started and getting this finished. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy. Thank you. Anybody else in the audience who would like to speak?
Good evening on this cold night. I just have a couple of things I'd like to say. My name is Robert Tazier. I am on the Planning Commission. I live on Hillcrest Drive. The point that I would like to make about the Parks and Rec Master Plan is that it is a plan. Just like any plan, if we don't work on implementation of that plan, it's not worth the paper it's written on. In the past, I feel that, and I've been involved in this for a long time now, in master plan and Parks and Rec and everything. I don't think we got the full support of actually working those plans. And I think that left us in some areas where miscommunications or not getting things done. I would really hope that this Park and Rec plan is worked on, not just passed one time and 5 years later, see you again, because that's not how it's supposed to work. It's supposed to work that we actually go in there and look at those goals that are in there, form action committee to go in there and start a process and put money aside to actually implement that plan. And there is a process to do that through the capital improvement plan. If we put money aside to implement those goals in any of these plans, that's how it gets done. Because if we just talk about doing it, it never seems to get done. There's no funding available to actually go in there and say, these are the priorities set by this plan, this is how much it's going to cost, and this is how we can implement it in the next 5 years. I think that's the part that's been missing. And I would really hope that we work hard at putting that committee together, or whatever it is, to implement the plan by putting funds in there available, prioritizing them goals. They have to prioritize, because we don't have millions of dollars to throw into this plan. So you have to take what you do have and actually work on that. And that the capital improvement plan goes out 5 years where you can put money aside, but you have to know what to put it aside for. That's the point that I would like to make. That I hope that this, I reviewed the plan myself. I am on the planning commission. I know there's things like Kathy was talking about, that shower thing. That's one of the action, that's a task and an action item that needs to be identified so that we can actually put money aside to implement that. But we got to know where the priorities are and where that sits in that priority. Once we know that, we can put money aside to implement those things. So, speaking as a planner, that's where I have to step in here and just remind the board that having a plan is one thing, but implementing a plan is what's really important. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Bob. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak on this during the public hearing? If not, we're going to see if anybody that's zoomed in. Again, this is our first time doing this, so we're just kind of figuring out how to operate here. But is there anybody that's zoomed in that would like to make comment or have a question? You should be able to use the raise hand feature. I believe that they set it up so that you can just unmute yourself. Is that correct? Yes? No? Yes? Okay. I'm getting the thumbs up that that is correct. So you should be able to unmute yourself if you have a public comment or use the raise hand feature. I am not seeing anything. So give a last call for public comment for, again, for the public hearing that we're in. Last call?
I have one more question when we're done with that.
Huh? I think you can. There's a limit during regular public comment that you can only come up once, but during the hearing you can.
Sorry about that. Kathy Woosterbarth again. I'm wondering if anyone can define what hurts our ability in terms of the fertile field, because Nicole, said it hurts our plan, or it hurts our ability on something. If somebody could just expand upon what that means, hurts. And then I wanted to touch on what Bob had said. One of the stark differences between the previous Parks and Rec plan and this plan is that there is an action plan in it that has dates identified and accountability for the entities that are responsible for implementing those. And that is a huge difference between the last plan and this. So that's, again, why I say that it's an excellent plan, because it has accountability. Thanks.
Thank you. Do you have a response in regard to that? Okay.
As far as how it could hurt us, it's just for future grant opportunities. So I guess it would be kind of credibility that we would lose with them, with MDNR, that we have this property, and if it were in the plan, we had a property and then we're selling it and then trying to go and get grants for other properties.
I think, does any board members have any other comments? Because I didn't see anything on the, unless I'm, wait, I'm getting some kind of a raised hand. Or, I can't see anything, I guess. So, who has the raised hand?
you. We have not been able to unmute. It is taking, I have my hand up. I don't know why I've not been addressed. There is a lot of problems going on here tonight. Her fear that things are going to go wrong, I think are. Or this is ridiculous. We weren't even able to hear the plan. We did not start rolling until, I don't know how many people spoke. This is absolutely outrageous, and you will not be allowed to proceed without us as the public being able to have heard what happened tonight.
Okay, I don't know who you are. I'm sorry.
I am Jen Kirch.
Oh, okay, thank you for clarifying that. I wasn't sure who was speaking. So I apologize.
It's pretty evident on my name here, and this is ridiculous what you're putting us through as townspeople
Jen?
to get through.
Huh? Okay, all right. So
You
now
need to start the meeting over.
we're not starting the,
Now, then don't go any further, because you are violating everything that is right about the Open Meeting Act, and I'm absolutely fed up with this board. The state is coming down on you. I assure you, I would not take one move tonight, people. Not one.
Anybody here having problems hearing us? Just checking.
This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous.
Does this have to do with the public hearing here?
okay, we're, right now, Jen, we are in the public hearing component.
I don't care what month you're in. We are violating the rights of the
Okay, I think you
citizens
could
of
move,
this
could you
town.
please mute, Jen? Thank you. Okay, this is the first time we've done this. Normally I can control, not control. That being said, everybody that I think can hear what we're saying and doing. We didn't have a presentation of, I don't know what Jen is referring to, but there was no presentation that we just gave. The Parks and Recreation Plan was in the agenda. We are just answering questions, talking about it, but there was no presentation that anybody missed. So there has been
We
meetings.
did not come in at the beginning of the meeting, Ann. You can sit there and say whatever you want, but we didn't. And this is the problem going through Spencer's people when he did recluse himself off the board. He's sitting on two boards.
Okay, Jen, stop. Jen, please. You're just, please. You have an opportunity to be in this room right now. You have an opportunity to zoom in. You didn't miss, I'm not sure what you think you missed or didn't miss, but we basically did the Pledge of Allegiance, a roll call, an agenda addition, which there were none, and we opened up discussion, of which we got a little bit of narrative from our Planning Commission director on the process to date. We did not have a presentation again on this plan. It's just a question and answer period. So I don't know what you think you're missing or not missing, and I apologize for that, but we are not, there's 15, I can't count that quick, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 people in the meeting right now, so, and all the other staff that are here. So there's plenty, Jackie has her raised hand. Jackie, do you have a comment on the public hearing for the,
Yes, I came to.
Jackie? Can you guys unmute Jackie? Is she unmuted?
There we go.
Okay.
I just wanted to let you know that I've heard everything since your roll call.
Okay, thank
And I'm
you.
on the phone. And I just wanted to let you know that everything's been running fine for mine. So I didn't know what the issues were. I just wanted to let you know that things are running great on my side.
Okay,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Thanks, Jackie. Does anybody
Just to
else?
let you know, there
On the Parks and Recreation Plan.
Right.
Yeah.
I was going to say. We have, again, we are discussing right now the public hearing for the Parks and Recreation Plan. So is there any other comment? I see Andy Laporte, your hand is raised. Do you have a comment on the Parks and Rec Plan? You should be able to unmute yourself.
Hi, Ann. I just wanted to also say that I had no problem. I was able to hear everything from the start of the meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Andy.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay. All right, so that being said then, I'm going, we do have another, Larry, would you like to have a comment? Okay. We have another member of the audience that would like to speak during the public hearing.
Good evening, everybody. Larry Holland, Oscoda Township resident. Just want to point out one last time the discussion that was from the board on questioning the zoning administrator, as well as some of the commentary from Mr. Taser. If we're going to make a decision to essentially dispose of a property, we should be doing so in a fashion that says that we have a 5-year plan. We shouldn't address the 5-year plan and come and say, well, hey, it's in the plan now, but if we are including it as an opportunity, and then we have to pull it out of the plan in order to complete the opportunity that's been discovered sometime within the 5 years, possibly into the future, it does look kind of hokey. It's not a good plan if we're adjusting it that way. We shouldn't approach our plan with saying, we can just change it whenever, because that does impact your credibility with the DNR. It does impact your credibility with grants. And they do review that sometimes retroactively. So if we're putting a disposable property now out of the plan, we kind of got that backwards a little bit. We should have taken it out of the plan and then made it disposable. And if there's a question on the sports complex, if that's an opportunity, maybe we should pop that sucker out of the plan if it's going to be marketed. Because if it is known to the public and being marketed to the public as we would want to sell it if it is an opportunity, then we should just approach it that way. We shouldn't be kind of wishy-washy about it. That's kind of how I view it. Everybody in the public has an opinion. Everybody knows what opinions are. Everybody has an opportunity to come to these little meetings. I'm glad to have one in live tonight because it's a pain in the butt sometimes on the Zooms. But the reality of it is that everybody does have the ability to participate on these plans. We might not agree with what the result of that is, but we still have to be civil to each other. We do need to check sometimes our legal process if we are going to be going back and forth in and out of these plans. And we do need to make some finality of decisions when we're approaching these things for the long term, because our zoning administrator doesn't want to lose credibility by looking like, hey, I'm having to manage this and now it's 1 minute disposable, 1 minute not. Let's just make a decision. It's now gone through the Planning Commission. Thank you, Planning Commission, for doing your part. Not everybody agrees with you, but hey, I didn't show up to any of your Planning Commission meetings, so I've lost my opinion at that point. If I would have had an opinion at that time, it would have been considered whether they agreed with me or not. So I'd kind of like to see us make decisions and stand by the decisions, whatever those decisions may be. If it's fertile, goodbye fertile. We can't necessarily just stop it because there's a loud voice on this side. If it's part of the planning process, that's what's enabled in order for us to effectuate those things as a community. That's the point of community, is that we have to learn how to get along, man. Like, makes sense to me. I don't know. That's it, I think.
Okay,
Good night.
thanks. Thanks, Larry. Tom?
Just one word, short comment.
Okay.
Again, Robert Taser. I think one of the issues that maybe clarify a little bit is that the Parks and Rec plan was presented to as a part of the land use, so the Planning Commission took on the job of doing that, and there's a process that's followed. And in that process, there's you have a series of workshops, which there was several of them, that involve the Parks and Rec plan and surveys and things of that nature. But the most important step of that is the Planning Commission gets a draft of, we hired a consultant to help us do this. They're professionals at it. Beckett and Rader is renowned professionals in that particular area of expertise. So we hired a very good consultant. They wrote up with us through a process a very good Parks and Rec plan in a draft form. The next step of that process is at the Planning Commission level is to actually have a public hearing at the Planning Commission level where we actually go through pretty much line by line that whole plan. So this is the second public hearing now at this level that has taken place on the master plan. So there has been a lot of opportunities for input into the community. And the 15%, I totally agree with that, but if you can't get that type of involvement, we've advertised these meetings all along. I mean, I don't know what more we can do in that area to get that information out and get people to attend these meetings. But those public hearings have taken place. That's how this draft is coming to you on your board as the draft that was finalized at the Planning Commission. And now we're asking you, and our Planning Commission voted unanimously to that we approve the way it was drafted. And now we're giving that recommendation to your board and for the community to adopt that Parks and Recreation Master Plan so that we can get busy and start implementing those goals that are listed in that plan. So that's I just wanted to give a little bit of history on, it's not something that is just the last minute thrown together on somebody's whim that this is the way it happens. The thing about the Furtaw Field came up at the public hearing at the Planning Commission and was discussed in detail by our representatives of Beckett and Rader. Our consultants explained it to us because we had those same questions. Our 7 members also asked those same questions that you're asking and the community is asking. And the answer that we got was it would do exactly the opposite. The Board of Trustees voted to make it a disposable property. They didn't do that 3 or 4 years ago. They did that in the past year. Therefore, as we're drawing the new draft, we couldn't put it in there. Otherwise, we would have been penalized on getting allocation grant money from various sources because it lowered us in that level of their scoring system. That would hurt us for all of our applications for grants, not just for Furtaw, but for all of them across the board. So the recommendation by Beckett and Rader was remove it now, and if you decide to take it off of the disposable list, you can then put it back in. And that's the best advice that we got from a consultant that we're paying a lot of money to, and that was the choice that the Planning Commission decided was the right avenue to take. Now, whether this board agrees with that's up to you, that's up to your board by vote. But that's the way it came to us, and that's the way we are presenting it to you. So, thank you.
Thank you, Bob, for that explanation.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, sorry, JD, I have a question. I still have there's a raised hand still. Is that just you haven't shut it off, or she turned it back on again, or what's the? I don't know what you're saying. Apparently I'm not good at charades.
I think they're working it out. It's unmuted.
Okay, all right. So I'm gonna do last call again for the people.
Hello, we're not done. We're not done. I am sitting here, there is a number of people, and I'm gonna remain calm, ma'am. I'm gonna try
I would
to-
appreciate that, Jen. Thank you.
I understand. I know you do. I know you do, Ann. I feel you. But you gotta feel me.
I'm trying.
We're sitting here, there's a number of people that are trying to call in. This Zoom meeting is blocking us from being muted and raising our hands. That is why I'm losing my mind on you.
Well, Jen, with all due respect, with all due respect, nobody else, there's like 15 people that I'm seeing is having an issue.
They are, but I've got more people on mine over here that are saying, why can't I call in? I said, I don't know. Open comment's still going. They're still trying to call you as we're speaking, and they're not getting through.
I'm not sure what to, I don't know what to say there. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 15, 20.
You're talking about involvement in numbers. You have about it for Townfield. We have video of the people losing their minds on you about how they don't want this to happen. Bob, Todd, remember, Ann, you were there. I just watched video this weekend. We don't want this. We have voiced this to you time and time again. We've asked for the studies, the statistics, because you forced people to place cross then. You guys all call me. This isn't gonna happen the way you want, Bob. This isn't the way
Okay,
you
Jen,
want it to happen,
please,
Todd.
Jen, stop with the names, okay? I think we're done with Jen. Okay, sorry, but I'm gonna make the call. Jen's comments are now done. So I will take whatever heat that needs to go there. I apologize, Jen, but you're just, we understand where you're coming from. And that's, you got your point across. Andy has a raised hand. He's a caller on the, you should be able to unmute yourself. Looks like you were able to. Andy?
Hello, Ann.
Hi.
I just wanted to point out something. When I signed in, you were given two options, and I chose to use Wi-Fi. There was a call-in option too, and I'm wondering if there's a chance that there is a technical issue with that other way of attending the meeting.
I'm not sure, are we? Hmm?
Says I'm in the meeting.
We were just for the viewer audience, I guess, we have a board member that was just trying to call in to see if he could get in, and he's able to. What is what?
Meeting ID?
It says call in user 1. I'm assuming that's you, it just popped up.
Yeah, I can hear you guys. I can hear everybody talking. Can you unmute me for a second?
You should be able to unmute yourself by hitting star something.
Star
I did. I hit
Star
star
six.
6. And it says the meeting host is going.
Oh, so is that down up there?
It's not me, I'm not the host.
Does it show that I'm muted on there? Oh,
Yeah.
If you're a
Says
call-in
your-
user, yes, but I can't.
Says you're blocked.
Now it just gave me the opportunity to do that, so.
There you
There
go.
you are.
Mr. Spencer, you
Well, hello.
Hello.
There you go.
Okay, all right. Okay, so that worked. David, we have a David that has a raised hand. David, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Yeah, hey, I got in through, for people who are having technical difficulties, I just went to your website, township website, went to your meeting date, plugged it in, and went, everything worked fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
David, did you have any comment for the public hearing while you're?
I just hope you guys follow through with the partnership with recycling, that's all. I'm all good.
Okay, thank you.
And just one more. I also tried dialing in, and the meeting ID that I'm entering from the board packet turns into something completely different when Zoom reads it back to me, and it becomes an invalid meeting number.
Oh.
So something is definitely not right, but it's not anything that we presented here. It appears to be a Zoom issue.
Okay.
I don't know who else to blame it on. I just don't know.
It did fail on the first, when I typed in the meeting ID, it cut off the last two digits, so. It worked on the second go. I don't know, maybe there's.
Tell them to log out, maybe you try
High call
again.
volume with Zoom, I don't know.
It might just be the way they're
Could be.
I don't know.
This is
That's why you
bad idea
technical
to have
gurus
Zoom.
are supposed to answer the questions. I just
I
sit
think we're
here
probably
and,
just gonna have to go back to public.
or
I tried this before.
reach out in the audience,
It's just
but
saying,
I don't know.
it's just a name.
I guess what's the board's?
Maybe have them try to go out and go back in again, like.
Well, I mean, Jen
during
is
the-
in, so
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't know if they're all, in one room and they're having issue maybe or something. I'm not sure, but,
I just want to point out that Jackie, the first lady that called in, said she was on a phone and had no issue getting in.
right. Well, I guess it is what it is. I believe, again, we are trying to accommodate everybody in doing this Zoom meeting, but this is not a requirement at all for us to do. I mean, the Michigan, the MTA actually identifies that. We're trying to make things as user-friendly for everybody, for people that can't get out, either for health issues or mobility issues or whatever else. That being said, we can only, we can only do what we can do here, so we're trying. But we do have one more raised hand. Kelly Brown has her hand raised. Kelly, if you would like to make a comment in regard to, again, the public hearing that we are now in, you should be able to do so.
Yeah, hi everyone. I just wanted to let you know I'm on the phone as well as on the Zoom. Everything works great. I did read through the whole plan. I definitely love all the additions that were made after the last planning meeting, and I second Kathy's comments about having a timeline and responsibilities to start executing some of these additions to our plan. Thank you for everyone's hard work. I really appreciate it. There's definitely a lot that goes into this.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Okay, so with that, again, I'm going to do last call for the Zoom, the people that are Zoomed in for the public hearing component. Last call. Hearing none. Anybody else in the audience? Public comment? The physical audience? Okay. Any board members with additional comments?
That was good.
Okay. With that, is there a motion to close the hearing?
I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing for the Township Parks and Recreation Plan.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Ms. McGuire, supported by Mr. Oscoda, to close the public hearing. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wurschenbart?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes. We have now closed the public hearing and we're back into the regular meeting. First on the agenda is public comments. And we do have two sections for public comments. We have one at the beginning of the meeting and one at the end of the meeting. Do we have any comment cards this evening, Tammy? For the first, I should say.
I have one, Larry Mellon, regarding trademark.
I just missed the subject.
Trademark?
Okay, thank you. And
Oh, hang on just a second.
wait 1 second. Sorry, again, new process here.
Yeah, okay, I'm ready.
We are in the public hearing, comment section. You do have 4 minutes to speak, and we actually have an official timer
I'm
this
gonna
time.
need you to adjust the camera to cover up that blind spot.
Yep,
for me.
okay. As soon as they take 30 pounds off me, and we can do that, we'll be good.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, just to be as brief as possible, FOIA procedures and guidelines. This trademark issue is one of 4 issues that are bothering me lately about township operations. There's people using the trademark out there that the township spent money on. I want to know the discussions that have been happening with the board and internally about what's being done on this. And I issued a FOIA request on December 18th. Your FOIA policy is very clear that when received not in a spam box, it is to be considered received on the following day. I've got a copy of your own policy. I read it, I understand it. Clerk's office submits a response to me on the 20th that says summarily, I'm going to just dismiss it until I get back from vacation on the 4th. That's unacceptable. It's not an allowable response. I didn't agree to it. I responded in kind. And finally, on Friday, at the end of the day, end of the business day, just this past Friday, I get another invalid response. That invalid response isn't allowed by law. In fact, I even say this response is not only late, it is a non-response, and I spell it out. I even referenced what needs to be done. I'm expecting a telephone call from the administration or from the clerk's office tomorrow. You guys are already late, you already blew it. I don't care which lawyer needs to review it, because they should have reviewed it inside the time limit that's afforded to you by law. Now, I'm no lawyer. I could probably play one on TV, but I did this with the board before and I won. The reality of it is that if I don't get the information I want tomorrow, then on Wednesday, I'm going to start to enforce the rights behind that FOIA request, because it's so far past due, it's not even funny and the process wasn't followed, and I don't like that. 4 items that I'm looking for are very simple. Please provide a copy of any letter received from the office of Timothy Friel, whether sent by himself or a staff member, that pertains to his resignation as the Charter Township of Oscoda attorney. 2, please provide copies of any invoice or letters alleging that the Charter Township of Oscoda is indebted or owes money to Timothy Friel for services rendered between some dates. Please provide copies of any letter received by the Charter Township of Oscoda board members or its employees from a person named Kevin Kubik between a couple of dates. I only know August 18th is the day that he was fired, presumably, but I can't tell because that's my birthday. But I want to know some details behind this stuff because it's all interconnected as far as I'm concerned. Then I want to know, please provide copies of any email, letter, or communications from any township employer contractor to another township employer contractor discussing, or dated between, a couple dates, referencing the Charter Township of Oscoda official logo, any trademark or copyright issues regarding official Charter Township of Oscoda collateral or assets. I want to be clear. I speak very clearly for a reason. I use very specific objective language for a reason. Because it is not ambiguous, it will be interpreted by any reasonable person in any legal form that this should be divulged. If you need to redact a couple things, do so quickly and get that information to me, because this is unforgivable. You need to redact something, I'll challenge the redactions as I see fit or if it is necessary. But as a citizen, I do not believe that it is in the interest of any board member to discuss a request as a leak under any circumstances. And my next FOIA request, is, if I have to, will be asking for any email that contains the word leak, leaks, leaked, or anything around there to find out what the perception is when it comes to Freedom of Information Act requests. I am not a frivolous person. I am a specific person. And the reason that I want this information is because it is in the public interest. I believe that that's all of my request. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Do we have any other?
We had two that they were addressed during the public hearing unless other ones we want to speak
Okay. All right. Anybody zoomed in that has a public comment in regard to an agenda item this evening? We do have a second public comment at the end of the meeting as well. Anybody for a public comment? Should be able to use the raised hand feature, although there's still a raised hand that has never been turned off. Rick, you should be able to unmute yourself.
There you go. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Rick.
I think some of the problems that are happening with the audio is because people are going through YouTube, people are going through another site, and it doesn't have those features on it to be able to call in. The only way I was able to get through was going through the normal Zoom as before, but a lot of people were typing in MICTV and YouTube, which was broadcasting everything you guys were saying, but this wouldn't allow anybody to call in and make any statements at that time. With that being said, as far as the FERTOP thing, I attended all 3 meetings at the Warrior Pavilion. And those meetings were specifically to gather community input in regards to FERTOP Field, so that Todd may present it to the Oscoda Township Board to give you guys an idea on what the residents and the township people thought about it. And I don't know if he's actually gave you guys an update. I know a lot of you were at some of those meetings, so you heard for yourself, but was that ever discussed? Did Todd ever discuss with the entire board what he got out of those 3 Warrior Pavilion meetings? Because we have them all on tape. I've listened to all of them, rewatched them, was there at all of them, and the community was, in my opinion, overwhelmingly against getting rid of FERTOP. And I just heard at the beginning of the meeting something about the school giving it to the township to be used for commercial use. If that's the case, then why was it presented that we could have a mixed use, a residential and commercial usage being put there? That was one of the main narratives that was being put out, was that, well, all these guys at Colada don't have any places to stay, we need to increase the flow of traffic. We're going to do that by putting residential units up at FERTOP. But, and I just said at the beginning of the meeting that that's not what the school asked to be done, if that's the case. So, when we get to be a point that you start listening to the township residents, the majority, and I know everybody thinks they're the majority, maybe it's just some people being loud, but, you know, we could do better than a survey. We could vote this out. You guys could, we could put it on a ballot, a special ballot, and if really want the community, let everybody vote on it, let everybody say what they want to say about it, instead of keep people call meetings for it, to get the community input. I'm not aware that the township was told by Todd, who hosted the meetings at the Warrior Pavilion, what the outcome was. What did the people think about that? It went from 7 sketches, a lot of these beginning. In the last meeting, it went down to 4 of them. And any of them that didn't have a structure put on it got taken out. It started with 7, second meeting there was 5, last meeting there was 4. So they were just pulling them out so that people had to vote something that had mixed usage on it. So I really do believe you guys know that the majority, the overwhelming majority of the township people don't want FERTAW to be used for anything other than what it has been, for a park. And I brought this up at the first Warrior Pavilion meeting. Kathy was speaking about it when using the term field or park. And she stated to me at that time, there was no difference in whether you called it a field or a park. Now I'm starting to realize there's a big difference in why you want to call it a field and not call it a park. So I'm going to end it with that, but I sure would like to know if those 3 meetings that I went to all summer.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks. Thank you, Rick. Yep, sorry. We don't have like a buzzer sound, but that was 4 minutes. Thank you, though. Can you guys turn the raise hand button off then after they speak? I think you have control of that. You should be able to do the lower hand. Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, last call for public comment. This is again our first public comment. Right, hearing none, moving on the agenda. We're now on to the consent section of the agenda. Under the consent agenda, we have several meeting minutes. We have the first one, which is the closed session meeting minutes from December 13th. That were emailed out to the board.
I think there's some ones on the table.
Not for the closed session.
Oh, not closed session, no.
Then just a little bit later this afternoon, I believe that Josh, you emailed out some revisions for the regular meeting minutes for December 13th. Are there any questions or changes on those?
I did get another revision from Mr. Palmer. I do have that in the same copy, but I had already ran these ones and put them in when I got that from you.
What was that?
And what was the
Well, it
change?
was just a simple, on page 8 of the minutes, where it refers to the planning commission appointments and the zoning board of appeal appointments. Instead of appointments, that should be renewals. These people were renewed, they're already appointed to those boards.
Oh, right. Yep. Okay.
All right. I had one under the discussion of water loss. It was, I guess I was expecting a little bit more information there.
Like what?
That maybe the employee out at Coletta notified us and we were looking for an update of what was happening and that Tammy was going to look into it and get it taken care of, which it did. So.
Okay, so if we
And maybe the locations of the sites. That was talked about also.
So do you want to maybe table these or revise these and put them on the next agenda then?
We can approve them with corrections presented.
Okay, so what exactly?
The location of the sites.
Yeah, location of the sites and that.
Water reported.
Yep.
Okay, so identify specific sites.
Yeah, and
reported by Coletta employee and task of the superintendent to follow up with F&B.
Right, and she did.
Which they did.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Everybody good with those revisions? All right. Moving on then to the special meeting minutes from December 21st. Everything look okay there?
It was page 2, I just wanted to understand, is it actually, I was about to say effort? Effort resignation? Okay, it was.
Yes.
Did we get an answer on that?
Yeah.
Any other revision or any other points in regard to the December 21st special meeting minutes? All right. Then moving on to finance, we have payment of bills. We have a bunch of prepaids in there. The first one is December 16th prepaid for $32,910,000. Are there any questions on those? All right, then we have a prepaid from December 17th in the amount of $270.66. Any question on those?
I have a question on that, Ann.
Okay.
Not so much what's in there, but what isn't in there. There are, at our last December 13th meeting, we approved a number of invoices for Roe, and to the total of $339,595. And all I can account for in this payment of bills is approximately $74,934.50. And then I noticed that we'll see it later in the meeting where Roe is showing that some invoices are outstanding that haven't been paid. And I'm just wondering why those invoices haven't been paid. It appears that they are all invoices that were to be paid out of the DWRF checking and the CWSRF checking accounts. And that's where the ones that they're showing as not being paid are in.
Were those ones, do you know, that we were waiting on to receive? Is that why those were the ones we were missing on the Roe invoices?
I paid them the ones that we approved 2 days after. Yeah, so I don't,
Are those ones that were paid out of the checking in question, those are the ones you paid? Those, is that a separate report that we had for those ones? Is that why he's not seeing
it's
those?
probably not, yeah.
Because those are written
Because
out
it
of...
doesn't go out of the PO, through the PO process.
Right, it's written
so-
out of a separate checking
Yeah.
account that Jamie,
So
right,
we
so I
approve-
think that's why
Yeah.
those ones aren't on their bills.
They're not on there, because the board approved them at that meeting, so I didn't provide a list, but I can send you one.
Well, but some of the ones that Roe is showing on their current invoices, which that we're going to take up later in the agenda, they're showing that they haven't been paid.
Oh, I paid everything that Tammy gave me.
We just, the 5 that are in the packet, we just received from Rick.
Okay.
That's why they're in the packet tonight.
If you look at those invoices from Roe, on the ones, the new ones that we're going to approve tonight, they list on there a number of invoices that are outstanding. And all of them, well, all of them but 2, ones that were approved at the December 13th meeting.
I wrote the checks on the 16th and Rick picked them up the day later.
Well, I guess my problem is that if I can't see a report from the checking account showing where those checks have been paid, I have no way of verifying that money's been paid. We authorized $339,595 to be paid. all I can verify in the payment of bills is $74,934.50.
I'll send that out to you tomorrow.
Okay, all right.
Sorry about that. We just
That's-
got those new checking accounts, and we don't go through the PO system with that, so.
Well, what brought it to my attention was when I looked at the invoices,
ones?
the new invoices from Rowe, and they show that there are, some of these that we approved are still outstanding and haven't been paid. So,
Yep.
okay.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Okay, but I had asked the question on December 17th, which was $270.66. That's fine then, Bill? Because you brought up other ones. Is the 270.66 okay on that run? The next one is the prepaid for December 21st. and
Oh, the
that's 200
270.66?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question on that. Well,
Okay.
before that, on the run for the 16th, there's a cancellation fee for $700 under the police fund, and I'm just curious what that would be. That would be, usually when we have cancellations, it's for like the Warrior Pavilion or something not under the police fund.
I believe that was the reschedule due to illness. For
We're back on the 12,
Bonrito.
yeah, 12/16 run. There's a question on the
For
cancellation
arbitration.
fee.
We had a $700 cancellation fee.
Not on my end.
This is page 115 of the packet.
It has nothing to do with Warrior Pavilion as far as I'm aware of it.
What's coming out of the police?
No, it's from the police
It's
fund.
coming out of the
Wasn't
police
that for
fund.
arbitration, Tammy?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that was when Chief,
Chief had COVID.
COVID, we had to cancel arbitration and there was a $700 fee for cancellation.
Okay,
Okay, all right.
all right,
Okay, so there was a question, so you have that question answered then on the 16th.
Yes.
So then the 17th, again, there's a run of 270.66. Did you have a question on that? Are you saying?
On the,
On the specific run for each one, we usually go through each one individually. on
Right.
the to approve the consent agenda. So the next one would be December 17th.
the
And that was
17th.
$270.66. Looks like a
Yes.
bunch of,
The question on that is, it makes no sense. I have no idea what this whole page says that we're paying for. There's no explanations, no descriptions. There's just 5 checks that are written to 5 different people.
They are overpayments in the utility billing. They get sent to, through accounts payable. Those also don't go through the accounts or through the PO system. The utility billing clerk enters those, and these actually were floating around out there for quite a long time, and I just happened to notice that they never got written when I was trying to go through and look for end of the year stuff and seen them, and so I talked to the utility billing clerk and with Josh, and we said write them, so we wrote them and got them taken care of.
so they're overpayments.
They're overpayments that,
To
were due back
individual
to the,
Water and sewer.
yes, that Melinda had actually entered a while ago. They were never written.
And is there any way to put that in the same format as the rest of the payment of bills? Because the rest of the, normally the payment of bills, you have, the GL number, the vendor, an invoice description, the invoice number, the due date, the amount. It's pretty well spelled out
Right.
what the check is for.
Yeah.
But this,
Yeah, I know.
I have no
that's-
idea what
yeah.
any of that means. It's like a foreign language on here.
Right,
Absolutely.
well, maybe under the GL description, you could put, they could have put refund in instead of municipal,
Right. I think there's one
Water.
more report too that was like that.
Yes,
they
there is one
forwarded-
more.
Yeah.
okay.
I guess Josh and I can get a hold of BSNA and see if there's something that they can do in utility billing to be able to take care of that.
So it comes from
Yeah,
like
because it goes,
the-
it comes from UB right to accounts payable, not through the PO process.
Okay, so we'll look into that.
Yep.
On the letter C, we have a prepaid for December 21st. That amount was $259,692.34. Were there any specific questions on that run? Okay, hearing none. And we have December 22nd prepaids in the amount of $35,682.77. Were there any questions on that run? Right. Then we have December 23rd, $72.71. Any question on that? Again, looks like an overpayment refund.
Yeah.
And then we have prepaid for January 4th, $52,844.63. Are there any questions on that? Okay, and then January 5th, we have $7,840.56. Any comments or questions there? And last but not least, January 11th, we have $20,047.87.
What is supplement 3?
For municipal code court, supplement 3.
Department 722 zoning and planning, $1,506.35 for supplement 3.
Nicole knows the answer to that question.
Do tell.
It's a, oh no.
Damaging the equipment already. Day 1.
She broke the microphone.
Okay, we're good.
Okay.
It's a Municode invoice, so they do all the supplements and they do the online posting, and then they send new supplements that go, they're actually paper, you know, they go into the zoning ordinance, and then they update everything online as well.
For what?
For zoning ordinance changes. So
okay,
like this last supplement, it had the marijuana ordinance in it, and then some other changes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. With that, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move that we can approve the consent agenda.
There's a motion by Mr. Cummings. Is there support? Support. Support by Ms. McGuire to approve the consent agenda. With those couple things that you're going to look into. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Now, moving on to the actual agenda. We are at the first, we're at Superintendent's report. First on the agenda, number 1 is the John Henry invoices. Tammy?
Okay, approximately a month ago, a leak was discovered in a 3-inch service line near Hangar 1 on the former Wordsmith Air Force Base. A request was made by our water department manager to bring in an excavation contractor to repair the leak, as the leak was assumed to originate under approximately 10 inches of reinforced concrete. Also, while investigating the source of this leak, a valve that was being used had continued to leak even while in the off position. F&V were asked to obtain quotes for the emergency repair and received 2 unavailable responses and 1 quote from John Henry Excavating. The repairs have been completed and will now require approval for payment by the Township Board. I would ask that the Board approve the 2 invoices for emergency repairs made by John Henry in the amount of $13,875 for the water main break and $11,835 for the water gate valve replacement, both to be paid from 591-000-890.000 Water Fund Contingency.
I noticed on those invoices that it said that they removed and reinforced concrete, and then they put concrete back in there. Did they reinstall reinforced concrete on that runway section?
I would like to take a moment to introduce Mark Bracci. He is our new construction manager with F&V, and he can give you all the details of what was repaired.
My name is Mark Bracci. I'm from
The podium, please. Thank you.
Everybody's got to see you.
My name is Mark Baracci. I'm a construction manager with F&V. I also am an engineer with F&V. The concrete was not put back as reinforced. I don't believe it was reinforced. It's not on the runway section. It's on the drive section behind the hangar. but it was 10 inches thick, and that entire roadway is 10 inches thick, which is what led us to put it back the way that we discovered it. We did use a high strength concrete to get it done quickly because of the cold temperatures that we're running into. And we also did not use any chloride in it because chloride out on an airport is not a good thing to have. So what we've done is we've tried to put it back as quickly as possible, so they are back in service already. It was just a matter of days until we get the blankets off and get it back in use. If you notice the difference between the pricing, they gave us a unit price for the concrete because we didn't know how much we were going to have to take out. We were very concerned about that. We knew that we'd have to take some out. We didn't know how big a slab we'd have to take out. We'd have to take out 2 slabs. So they established that as a unit price, and that's why that number is separate from the actual repair cost. By doing the 2 repairs at the same time, there's only 1 mobilization cost to it. So it made it a little bit easier to stomach. We did try to contact 4 people. 1 was non-responsive. We'd never even heard back from them. The other 2 basically said they didn't have time for it. John Henry was the only one that was willing to come out and do the work and get it done quickly. They really mobilized right away.
Did you talk with anyone from Coletta or the airport authority to make sure that the concrete that you put back?
They were aware of everything that we did out there, yes.
So is that a yes, you talked to them, or
yes,
they're aware?
Yes, we talked to them.
Okay, so Mr. Rapper and
I personally did not talk to them, but we did talk to them.
Yes, so everybody's happy at the airport?
Yes,
concrete
as far as I know.
But this is actually on the road between Coletta
Correct.
and Phoenix Composites, right?
Correct.
Because they use that with fork trucks and stuff.
Yes.
Do you have any idea how much water loss was there or was going on?
We really would have to estimate. I've heard 90 gallons a minute or something like that was what probably was coming out of that. We don't know. Depends on the size of the hole in the pipe, the pressures. There's a lot of things that change based on what it is, but it was a substantial leak. There was a lot of water coming out of it when I first saw it. And the prudent thing was to get it taken care of as quickly as possible.
Thanks. I saw it bubbling out of the road, so.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
I'm good, thank you.
Just for clarification, I'm sorry, did you replace is he replaced somebody?
No.
No.
No, he's brought in.
Just brought in for the, okay.
No, I'm an
Just
assistant.
checking.
I'm here to help.
Okay, all right. We like
But
that.
I do
Right,
have a
thanks.
construction background. I also have an engineering background. I've been a DPW director, a city manager, and I've also played clerk treasurer when I decided not to be there anymore. So I've got a lot of different hats I've learned. I've also been a consultant for quite a while. I've done a lot of large construction projects for the city of Detroit, and Hanley, South Florida, things like that.
Okay, great, thank you.
Been around for a while. That's why it's great. Okay.
Welcome.
It's hard to see, it's kind of dark in here, but I'll take your word for it.
You can grow it out a little bit.
Yeah, right. Manage this side of the table. The beards. Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions? Third, is there a motion?
Yeah, and I would like to I'd like to say, first of all, that we're very fortunate to have someone like John Henry in our community, that he steps up time and time again to bail us out of emergency situations when we find ourselves and on top of that, he does excellent work. So I would like to make a motion to approve paying the 2 invoices from John Henry Excavating for emergency water main repair in the amounts of $13,875 and $11,835, both to be paid from Fund 591-000-890.000.
Support. Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Ms. McGuire, to pay those 2 invoices to John Henry. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Wishbard?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to trademark attorney request. Okay.
Okay, recently the township has had quite a few trademark and copyright violations that have been reported to our current trademark attorney, Mr. Eric Pelton. Through a referral from Mr. Pelton and due to the ongoing violations, it was recommended to seek a trademark attorney that deals specifically with Michigan law. I would ask for approval from the board to seek out and hire a trademark attorney that deals directly with Michigan law.
Ms. Did they give any I'm sorry, did I miss, did they give recommendations of a specific person or?
I have two at this time,
Okay.
and I don't have any further information with that. I don't have costs or anything. That's why I was just hoping for approval to be able, if you would like to set a limit, an hourly limit.
Is the current trademark attorney not versed in Michigan law?
He said the issues that we're having are very Michiganized, and he thought it would be best that we had someone that dealt directly with Michigan law.
So are we changing attorneys in that respect then, or are
We would
trying to
have to,
multiple
yes.
attorneys in that respect?
We would, he would definitely defer to this, our new attorney.
Forever and
Should be
ever
done.
until we change it?
Yes, yes.
What is the current hourly rate for the trademark attorney?
We've never actually had an hourly rate with him. It's been just the charges for our trademarks. That's all we've incurred with him so far.
Those are package deals. And
Yes,
got it.
yes.
Right, when you went through the process of the branding and so on?
Yes.
Okay. Well, do you want us to just give authorization to go seek?
Well,
When they come
I
back,
believe the
or-
action needs to happen quickly.
Right, no, I understand that, but in regard to giving you action to go seek, it's kind of hard to set a limit when we don't really have an amount, so.
So you're going to go out
Yeah.
for RFPs to the two people?
Or just ask for, solicit their hourly? What is the board thinking?
I would like to see something.
I don't think we need to do an RFP, I mean, that's a 6-week process just to.
I believe at this point, you're looking for action from us so we can get that, so we can take action on the trademark
Yes.
issues immediately.
Yes.
Which is our concern with that delay process now.
If there are trademark violations, we need to act sooner rather than later
Yes,
as well.
correct. That's right. It's time.
Well, I would move that the superintendent be afforded the ability to go and find an attorney that deals directly with Michigan law trademarks.
Support.
Ooh, that was a perfect time.
Oh, I didn't even hear a second voice.
Oh,
That's
man.
what happens when you're right next to me, so I guess I want to give it to Tim, all right. Okay, so there's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Cummings.
Sutton?
My question is, so we're just giving direction then for Tammy to solicit proposals with no cap or anything? I mean, is everybody good with that?
I think she'll exercise her
Really?
judgment.
I think that's fine.
And I can't imagine.
Well, if we're just authorizing proposals, then you still have to come back, so.
Right.
Go and get them, bring them to us, and we shall decide.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Is
We
that-
need,
Oh, I guess we
motion?
have to vote on that.
Yeah, yes, we do. Well, we do have to vote, so roll call, please.
So what's the motion?
The motion is to authorize Tammy to go out and solicit proposals and bring them back
Okay.
at the next board
So
meeting.
we can.
So we can act.
Proposals, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, Ann, who supported that motion?
The motion was made by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Cummings.
Me and Tim were about the same time, but I'm a little louder from this one.
Yeah, you're right in my ear. Are we good with roll call, or do we have any changes to that motion?
I think it stands. We
No
didn't
more
have to
comment?
make any,
All right.
make any
Roll
financial
call.
decisions.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to row invoices. Tammy?
All right, your packet contains 5 invoices from Row Engineering for the month of December. Each invoice requires individual approval by the Township Board. I listed them out how I did the last meeting in hopes that it would be another smooth process.
Okay, and I guess just for clarification, because I was a little confused by Bill's comments. Bill, are you thinking that there are invoices in this round that we've actually paid before? I was confused.
No, if you
Okay.
look at, well, when we get to the next, Well, if we move ahead, just look at page, let me get it here.
143.
Because there's 5 invoices.
The first one is on page 143 of the packet.
Okay.
If you look at the bottom there, it shows outstanding invoices. And all of those but one were ones that were authorized to be paid at the December 13th meeting. And there's a similar list on another invoice that's coming up.
I guess I'm not looking at, I printed it out, but I'm not looking, I don't know what
Here's-
page you're referring to.
This is right here, page 143.
I mean, I have each invoice. The first one
On
is
page-
invoice
oh, I'm sorry, that's
0101-421.
On page 143 of the packet, it shows invoice number 0099671, amount of $52,0225,
Outstanding. See right
0100-137.
here, Ann, right here. They're showing us outstanding, but those were the ones that we
Oh,
approved
okay,
at the
but these
last
aren't, all right,
one.
that's what I
Yeah,
was getting
yeah.
clarification on. Those
Right.
are not listed in any of Jamie's
Right.
things. Okay, that's what I wanted clarification on. Okay,
Right.
thank
Now,
you.
now, one other point that I wanted to make on these, if you go to the bottom of that list, and there's another list on another invoice, invoice number 0101297 in the amount of $22,097.50. That was not in the list of invoices that we approved at December 13th, and it is not in these invoices that we're approving tonight. And there's also invoice 101298 that Rose claiming is outstanding, also was not in the list that we approved in December. So I don't know where those two invoices are.
Okay.
Well, we
or what
better-
happened to
yeah,
them.
We better have Rick look into that, because we don't want the same situation we had last year, where it was almost past year end and we had to pay stuff, so.
Wonder if those are also in the last PWRF pay, maybe? Those are,
Yeah, we'll
We'll look into those.
Yeah, we'll get that folder out tomorrow. I'll send the report to the board from the last.
You got the numbers there?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bill,
Sure.
for clarifying that.
Yeah, thank
All right,
you.
so the first one is invoice 0101-421, and the amount is $11,130. I make a motion that we pay that from Fund 591-000-821.000. All right, there's a motion by Ms. Richards, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wusterbar?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Next, we have invoice 101-428 in the amount of $477.50.
I'd make a motion that we pay invoice 101-428 in the amount of $477.50 from Fund 101-751-880-572.
Support.
There's a motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Ms. McGuire. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wusterbar?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to invoice 0101-424 in the amount of $33,218.75. I'll make a motion that we approve payment of that invoice from the DWRF checking.
You want to include the other invoice, Ann?
Do we have to identify them separately?
No, they're both out of that same checking account.
Probably, well, I would think so because those are, they're each for.
They're going to be reimbursed.
the Funding for reimbursement.
I think you wanted them separate. So I made the motion.
For 424?
for 424, and you supported it. So there's a motion by Richards, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Next on, we have invoice 0101423 in the amount of $13,613.75, again from the DWRF checking account. I make a motion, we approve that payment.
Support.
There's a motion by Ms. Richards, support by Ms. McGuire. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. And last on the list is invoice 0101422 in the amount of $12,850.
I'll make a motion that we approve invoice 0101422 from CWSRF checking in the amount of $12,850.
Support.
There's a motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Wusterbarth for payment of that invoice. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Sorry, my vision, it's really dark in here. I'm having a hard time reading. Okay, moving on to number 4, Oscoda Township property, parcel 021-R30-000-01300, which is actually located in Oscoda Township, zoning change request. Amy.
All right, your packet contains information on property owned by Oscoda Township. Assessor card and location maps are included within Oscoda Township's municipality. While a handful of people may have known this property exists, this property is not likely a known property of the township by much of the staff and board members, as it has never been documented in previous reports. This property is currently zoned industrial. However, it is adjacent to a residential development to the west and park property to the south, making this property a high-quality site for single-family or multi-family residential. Given our serious community need, both Oscoda and Osable Townships for housing and potential developer interest, the EIC Director recommends pursuing a zoning change to a residential designation through the Osable Township Zoning Director. Taking this action requires board approval.
Okay, do we have any comments, questions, thoughts from the board?
I have one. In the past, since previous to me being on the board, that property we were going to use as a cemetery expansion. So I'm not really sure what the zoning needs to be, or if we're gonna change our minds and not use it for the cemetery expansion. I am aware that the DPW has said a few times now that the cemetery is getting pretty full and they need to expand, and didn't know what we were going to do. So I know I spoke to Todd a little bit before, so just wanted to bring that to the attention of the board.
Hey, if you guys have any questions, I mean, like I said in the narrative, property to be able to develop, to provide housing for workers, employment opportunities for people to live in the community is scarce. This property is high and dry, so I just wanted to make the board aware of it. Before that narrative, I was unaware that, it's possibly the cemetery expansion, so I'm just putting it in front of the board for you guys to be able to take action.
Any other questions for Todd?
Do you have any questions?
Little sidebar going on down there? No questions?
Who owns the cemetery? Pinecrest.
So there's 2 cemeteries there. One's owned by the Catholic Church.
Yes.
And then
The other one is owned by the township.
by Oscoda Township, correct?
And how much extra, or how big is the area that we own in that cemetery?
Cemetery itself, I'm not sure how big the cemetery is.
Got a ballpark for me? 2 acres, 100 acres?
Looks like smaller than what we could expand to, which is
Right.
8 acres.
Well, I'm just looking at it, and if we've got, I mean, it looks like a relatively small property on the map as compared to the property that we're talking about. So I'm just wondering, do we want to have room for the next 150,000 years for graves? Or do we want to maybe split it up and talk about using some of it for housing and keeping some of it to expand the cemetery? Or just tossing it out there? If we use that whole spot for cemetery, that's a giant cemetery. I mean, big one.
The cemetery's pretty big that we have.
Yeah, I don't
It's
know.
probably
It
twice
is.
the size as the width of that property that we're talking about.
Yeah,
It's hard to tell by the
our
pictures.
cemetery is pretty good size.
Yeah.
And I believe there's other property adjacent to that that would be available besides this parcel.
Right. Yeah, the way the shape of
Right
it
there.
is, I think.
Yeah, this out in
Right
here
in there.
is directly to the west of the cemetery, so that could be available for future use. That's a Sable property, but
Todd, did you say somebody already inquired on it, or you're just thinking ahead?
I've had
possibilities.
several developers who have looked at it and expressed some level of interest.
Okay.
And I think we have, if it's something you want to pursue, the township pursuing a rezoning effort is going to be much more successful than a developer trying
Right.
to do it.
I
So
understand that.
I'm just trying to get if it's something we want to pursue, I think the township should pursue it and get ahead of that curve, making it an easier developer opportunity. But yeah, I've shown the property to several people.
yeah, I would say, I don't see, from a planning standpoint, I don't see the point of having this as industrial property in this, here in a residential neighborhood, basically. I mean, it's behind Northern
Northern
Trucking,
Truck's right there, right, yeah.
But, you know, recently we rezoned some property just a little farther down River Road that was industrial, and they wanted to rezone it to, what was it, Waterfront Marina.
Their waterfront district, yeah.
Yeah, and it goes all the way down to the river, and the property that they had were purchasing was south of that, and it was zoned industrial. And it really didn't make any sense to have that be industrial. I don't see the point of, I mean, at one time, maybe they thought, you know, they were gonna expand their industrial base here, but I think it makes more sense to rezone it to residential, and then maybe we
Well, in
can.
theory, would an industrial use allow for cemetery expansion anyways?
No.
I wouldn't think so, so, yeah.
Well, would
So we'd have
residential?
to- I don't, yeah, interesting.
I don't know, Nicole?
They would be living there, but.
That's a good question.
Nicole, would you know that?
What's that?
What zoning would it have to be for the cemetery?
I'm not sure.
What is that?
Light use commercial?
You know, just thinking residential, but we're built forever, so.
Yeah,
I guess I was just wondering, because most cemeteries are in residential areas, so.
Right?
The zoning on
I
that.
think it would be much more adaptable for a cemetery if it was zones of
Right.
residential as opposed to industrial.
I think the more, I guess I shouldn't say the more important question, but the magic question would be is, do we actually need it to retain it for expansion of the cemetery? To
Yeah.
me, that's
Yeah,
the,
well,
that would
I
be the
believe we
first
do.
question. And then deal with what it would be zoned one way or the other.
Right.
I mean, how much,
Well, how many spots are in the cemetery? How many more can be put in there? And and what's the time frame that the ones that are already in use have filled up?
We are going to need more space. We are just under right at like 29, 30 spots left to go.
I'll make
How
a
many-
motion that we postpone this topic until we have further information about the cemetery requirements.
Support Spencer.
I heard 8. There's a motion by Ms. McGuire and support by Mr. Spencer to postpone this topic until we have more information in regard to the cemetery requirements. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
No.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to resolution section of the agenda. The first one is section 7.3, site plan review process.
Okay, in your packet is the section 7.3 site plan review process. We contracted with Beckett and Rader to rewrite that process. It just includes more detail and provisions for administrative reviews and things like that. So the Planning Commission approved the final section of 7.3 site plan review process in November at our public hearing, and the 30-day review period has expired with the county. So I'm just asking for your final approval.
Okay, is there any questions for Nicole? Comments? A motion?
Yeah, and I will make a motion to approve the revised section 7.3 of Ordinance 165 concerning site plan review process.
Support?
There's a motion by Mr. Palmer and support by Mr. Sutton to approve that revision. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Next on is Resolution 2022-01, Charter Township of Oscoda Parks and Recreation Plan.
Well, this is a follow-up to the public hearing. I just would like to ask for final approval of the Parks and Recreation Plan.
I move to approve Resolution 2022-01, Charter Township of Oscoda Parks and Recreation Plan.
Support, and I want to thank Nicole and Bob Tazier for the input tonight.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Ms. McGuire to approve Resolution 2022-01. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Moving on to other. First on, we have the Assistant Librarian resignation. Danny?
So I received a letter from Rosemary. After getting the letter, I reached out to her because she dropped it off and left. I apparently was not in at the moment. She had spoken very highly of working for the township these past few years, and she said she had been presented with another opportunity and felt she needed a change. So she was a great person, to work with. I've worked with her on several different things, and with regret, she is resigned as of the 31st of December.
Okay, thank you.
Motion to accept that.
Yep. Is there a motion to accept that resignation?
So moved.
Support.
Okay, there is a motion from
Mr. Spencer?
Mr. Spencer and support from Mr. Cummings
Yes.
to accept that resignation
With regrets?
with regrets. We'll add, are you good with adding with regrets?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Support.
Still support?
Yes.
Okay, all right, roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to library staffing request.
So with the resignation of Ms. Netwig, Ms. Savage has requested being able to go out to hire a new staff member to replace Rosemary and increase an hour to the current part-time staff.
I didn't hear what you said, an increased hour?
1 hour, yes.
Okay,
To make it go from 39 to 40 hours a week
I see. Thank you.
Does that
altogether.
do anything with the, you know, the full-time FTE thing? Does that mess us up at all? or
No,
Nothing?
no.
Great. Great, any questions, or is there a motion?
I would make a motion to approve hiring a part-time staff person for 15 hours per week and increase the other part-time staff to 25 hours per week for a total of 40 hours per week.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer and support by Mr. Cummings to approve Robin's request as submitted.
And I would just like to make a comment that I think Ms. Savvy's doing a wonderful job at the library. She's put a lot of things in place out there. It's an active place. I'm surprised they can handle it with just 40 hours a week, but she's doing an excellent job there with our librarian.
Yeah, we need to bottle her energy and sell that.
Yeah.
Or I'll share it, something. Okay. All right, roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to the Township Board Subcommittee appointee.
Okay, this is my last thing on the agenda tonight. I am just looking for a Board of Trustee member to join Planning Commission Subcommittee. It's for the 2022 Master Plan action items and goals. We have 2 Planning Commission members, our Superintendent, myself. I'm seeking a board member, and I'm trying to get an EIC member as well. So in our master plan, we have a lot of action items to go over for the year, and we figured it was best to tackle it with a subcommittee. And I was hoping one of you guys would want to join us. Please.
What is this subcommittee?
It's for the 2022 Master Plan action items and goals. Not all at once.
Anybody? Anyone? Anyone?
Jamie raised her hand there?
I'll do it. I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So do we need a motion to appoint, I would think?
I don't think so.
Yes, we do.
I make a motion that we appoint Ms. McGuire to the subcommittee for the master plan items and goals for 2022.
Support.
There's a motion by Ms. Richards, support by Mr. Spencer, to appoint Ms. McGuire to the committee. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes.
Thanks,
Motion
dear.
carried. All right. Moving on to the Rockfest land use request.
Okay, you have a letter from Mr. Tazier regarding a request from the Veterans Memorial Park Foundation to have the annual Rockfest at Veterans Memorial Park this year, August 12th and 13th, so it would be a 2-day event. He is also requesting the use of Furtaw Field as a backup, just in case things don't work out at the Memorial Park. Bob, do you want to talk, or would you like to,
Anybody have any questions for Bob? Or do you want to add anything to the letter?
Nope.
No? I guess I just had.
the waiver of fees is also in the request.
I guess I had a question in regard to the waiver. We don't control, the last I knew, the Veterans Memorial, they lease from us. They have control. So we've never, I don't think the township has the ability to charge even if we wanted to.
The FERTA. For FERTA.
Oh, you're talking
They have
about
to use
if they
it.
have to use FERTA?
Yes.
Okay, all right, gotcha. I was gonna say, because I didn't understand that in there on that, okay. And then I guess my other question is, what happens if, do you think there'll be an issue at all with that location if they break ground for the apartments that in theory might be going there? Will there be any kind of a construction issues there?
No.
Okay.
No, we've been there and mapped
You
it
still
out.
have enough room, okay.
Yes.
I mean, because we do have we're moving towards a purchase there, so I didn't know if that would limit things.
No.
Okay.
No, strictly on the Veterans Memorial Park property.
Okay.
Why FERTA as a backup? Sorry. I just like to make you walk across the podium. I think he flipped you.
In his mind.
He needs the fright.
The Oscoda Rockfest puts this festival on for the foundation out there, the Veterans Memorial Park Foundation. This year we're tasked to do a the War Dog Memorial out there. So in the planning stages to put on a concert like this, it is, we're gonna bring national bands into this this year, so we're expanding the show. The facilities, we have to make sure there's a lot of different things at the Veterans Park. We would like to do it there to showcase the park. It's a larger facility there. The issues that we may not be able to there's several issues, power, things of that nature. So we have to bring in generators, and at this time, it's actually late in the planning process to put this on. We have a lot of that being done, but we would like to retain Furtaw Field as a backup in case things go south and we have to do a one-day show or things of that nature, because like I said, it's in the planning process. And when you bring in a lot of these national acts, you know, they bring in a lot of equipment with them, and we need a place to be able to park that equipment also. So we may have to utilize that field for other things, such as staging and things of that. And then once their equipment is on stage, because they bring millions of dollars worth of equipment with put this on. So we would ask that we may not use it. We don't plan on using it, but it may become a necessity for us to find an auxiliary place to stage some of this for the show. You know, motorhomes, things of that nature that these artists stay at. So since this is new, doing it out in the Veterans Memorial Park area, we're just trying to take precautions to make sure that we can make everything move smoothly. And the part that we are asking for is for help from the DPW to help us put stuff on there. And in return for their use, like we have done in the past, we, of course, put Oscoda Township as a top-tier sponsor for the Rockfest, which will include all of our advertising and radio ads and things of that nature. That Oscoda Township, it's an advertising campaign for the township. And so it's just bartering services, I guess, what we're asking for, which they do for like the Paul Bunyan Festival and other such things. So that's what that was about.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anything on the calendar for those dates already?
Yeah, from last year.
No.
Excellent, just checking.
And just before a motion, Rockfest is a completely charitable event, and all proceeds go to the Veterans Memorial Park. And I happen to sit on the finance committee for Rockfest, so no one is paid. I just want to make sure the board understands that. We did the same thing last year. I did not have to recuse myself from voting, but just want to make that aware.
Okay. Thank you, Steve.
Yep.
All right, with that, does somebody have any further questions, or is there a motion?
I would move to approve the Veterans Memorial Park Foundation's use of, well, possible use of Furtaw Field and waive any fees therefore for the dates listed in the document.
Support.
Okay, so
I'm
we're
sorry.
basically approving the request as submitted, I guess that's what, because there's other things that we're signing on to.
He said
Which is
that.
help with DPW. I don't think he said the full request.
Yeah,
I
not in
didn't
so
hear
many
that.
words. I will amend my motion to
Okay.
approve the document as submitted.
I thought he did.
He didn't.
How about that? Is that
All right,
right?
that's perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Will you still make, support that motion?
I do.
All right. Thank you. Does that mean we're married? Okay.
Hey.
All right, there's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Ms. McGuire, to approve the letter or the request as submitted with all the different details. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wurstabarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to all the members of the Rockfest committee for all the hard work. Okay, moving on to the annual meeting of the board's work session scheduling.
So, in keeping with last year, Mr. Dickerson would like to gauge the board's availability. Were we the end of March?
Yeah, last year we did the third week in March.
Okay. For the annual meeting of all the boards.
Is that something that we would have here? Like, what, how would we, last time I think we Zoom in or something? I don't really remember.
It was definitely
Zoom.
Zoom last time.
So what are you thinking, Todd?
I know you're the board. Now, like, last year was Zoom, so it was fairly convenient from that perspective.
Great.
Yeah, because we have like 30, probably 30 or
Yeah, there's quite a
close
few.
to
if
40
you look
people
at it,
by the
yeah.
time you consider all the boards that need to come to the party. So perhaps, I know Warrior, is locationally a possibility, but I don't know if it's going to be open. If you wanted to do it here, you just got to figure out how you're going to put.
I'm being a smart aleck. I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
There's plenty of room here. Plenty of room.
There is for the people. It's just a matter of how you stage the board presentations. I guess the boards could just come up, I guess, here and do a presentation for you. So my mission tonight is simply get a date from you so we can start planning that. And I always like to remind the board and the public that this is part of the RRC certification process.
Is there a specific date you have to have it done by?
There is not. It just needs to be done annually. And as we finish up, the end of December, having it in March gives the zoning and planning and myself time to generate our reports. Ours are probably the most labor intensive versus board of review.
I believe our audit is scheduled that time frame, so I would like to pick a different date if possible.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's some flexibility. I'd like to keep it somewhat consistent than what we
Right.
did last year so that the MEDC thinks that we're,
Right.
following a standard practice. So
Agreed.
when is your audit?
I believe it's the end of March, he said it was going to be, right?
25th or
25th or
26th, somewhere
26th
in
or
there.
something there?
That's right around.
So if we moved it up moving it up into the beginning of March, does that help you or hurt you?
I think that would help, I guess.
I would think that would help with,
Yeah.
Looking at calendars.
vacation schedules and so on, but.
Yep.
Okay. Like I say, there's some flexibility there.
So maybe, sounds like we should probably send out a, what do you call that? Search one of those
Want me to do a poll?
poll, yeah, Zoom monkey thing, Survey Monkey, whatever you call that. I don't know, something.
So everybody
Excellent
can check their
reference.
dates?
Thank
Excellent
you.
reference. Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Survey Monkey, I don't know, something.
Sounds like a new company.
Yeah, I just
Being
made a new
hatched right here in
company.
Oscoda.
Yep. Doodle Pool, there.
There you
Is that
go.
better?
It's much better.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so send out maybe a doodle pool for, or whatever you want to call it, early March dates to everybody.
That works.
Okay. Thank you, Todd. All right, that completes the agenda items. We are now moving on to the last public comment section of the agenda. I'm going to start first by asking anybody in our immediate audience. If there is anybody that's actually seated in front of us right now that would like to do public comment, we will start with that. Kathy? please come to the podium. And again, just as a reminder, you have 4 minutes.
Oh, hang on.
Ms. McGuire, it will be.
I'm slacking on the timer.
Yeah.
It's
I
been a
won't
while.
take 4 minutes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm up here again. I think it's my 3rd time. And at the beginning of the meeting, during the public hearing, I asked for something very specific. And you guys rushed right through approving that Parks and Rec plan without the outdoor shower at Ken Ratliff Park. We need this outdoor shower. I'm fighting very, very hard to protect that lake and that park, our township park, from PFAS contamination in every way that I can. But we need to be able to shower that stuff off. So I'm hoping that the board will find a way to get this in some sort of project, if it's not going to be in the Parks and Rec projects, otherwise, that it be done this year, because we really need that. So I suggest asking the Air Force for it, since it is their contamination, so. All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else in the audience? Larry?
Good evening, Larry Holland, once again. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Here.
I commend Kathy for speaking on a subject that's near and dear to her heart, because we all like to be able to drink water and trust that it's going to be good for us. Parents told us it was good for us. We should respect that. We need to trust our government to enforce that. And she's right. When the issue came up on the agenda item, you guys tasked it instead of processed it. And you should have processed it, and you should have considered it, and you could have added that amendment right onto that, approved it, done, no waste of time, problem solved. Just want to point out, section 4.20 F and section 4.23 AG. Those are your answers for where can you put cemeteries in your township. I don't work for you guys. You guys are supposed to work for us. I shouldn't have to know this stuff. Ordinance 165, that's your guys' ordinance. Details out where to put those cemeteries when the question comes up. Forestry district, agricultural district. There's your answer. Now, I'm no expert, but I certainly can read. And that's the moral of the story about this FOIA request that I brought up. I know how to read. I know how to process what I'm reading, and then I put it to task. I'm putting the township to task that, again, tomorrow I get a nice phone call that says, hey, come down to township, meet with us. Let's go over your request. Here's what we can give you. Here's what we're going to redact. And follow your own procedures, man. That's all I ask. And I'll even give some input on how to make those procedures a little bit better. There's also a rule out there that says that if you have a piece of property that's in an adjacent township for the purpose of cemeteries, that the rules are different. But I'm not going to tell you the section of the code because that's your homework, guys. It does exist, but if you guys can't find it by next board meeting, just send me an email. I'll give you the answer. Because I'm doing that Google thing, and it's pretty good. Final minute and a half, I just want to talk about something positive. Because, man, it's a new year, 2022. Let's get real. Community means that we got to start looking out for one another, not fighting with each other. Probably half the people that watch this thing don't even like me, but I'm still going to tell them what my opinion is. And you know what's cool about that? Is that's our right. To be able to be respectful, to be able to listen, but more importantly, listen with the intent to understand the other person's position. I hear that that's called something along the rounds of empathy. We got to be more empathetic. We got to be more, collaborative. Because public-private collaboration is how we succeed. Not public versus private, private versus public, and on and on and on. We're only going to all succeed if we're all going to start working down the same path. We don't have to agree on everything. We just have to have a general direction, and that means leadership. And that means use your voice, but use it reasonably. Final point. You have a superintendent. You guys need to look up what the superintendent's duties are. Shouldn't be coming here asking to enforce the trademark laws. I brought this issue up personally to her on a telephone call that that's township money being spent. The current attorney should be smart enough, not even a copyright attorney, to just send a cease and desist to the violators to get the process started while she has the ability to spend under the procurement policy up to whatever fee she needs to enact and make sure that our laws are followed, because that's one of her duties, the second one in the statute, to make sure that our ordinances and all laws are followed, and copyright law included. We need to protect the identity if we're going to market the town and hire an expensive contractor with boards. Let's protect our brand. Public-private. Get along.
Thank you, Larry. Anybody else in the room that has public comment? Okay. All right, no other public comment in the room. We will now look at the Zoom. Is there anybody that has public comment? Raise hand. I have Jen. Jen, you are unmuted. Please state your name. Okay. You have 4 minutes.
Sorry for my frustration. Thank you for your time. It's hard to be sitting here, and Larry said it very well. We have to come together. So that's recognizing our growth. And I think we have a big difference in where that's supposed to go. And where things should go, we should honor where we've been. The duty of loyalty and adherence to administrative township governance. This duty requires members to avoid conflict of interest, self-dealing, and exploiting township information or transactions for personal gain. Well, sorry folks, that wasn't actually the one I wanted to bring up. That was where I was going to go. I was going to go there, and I was going to go about Todd's night, because that was supposed to be on the agenda, and only last time it would be, and it wasn't. And that's the frustrating part of sitting on this side of the town, is we do bring these things to your attention, month after month after month. No old business is carried through. You sit there, and it's like you're at the firing squad, guys. I'm watching you. You have no real interest in what I'm saying, what I'm doing. You just want to get through the time. And that's sad. And it's so sad. It's sad that we don't care that we're losing Paul Bunyan Park. What that location meant for townspeople and for business, commerce to come together. That you're ripping that away from us. You're ripping away from our history. And for what? You know this isn't what the townspeople want. We've covered this time and time again. But there seems to be a handful of you that have an agenda that doesn't coincide with us. So what are we supposed to do about that? Now, I am going to say that we are going to have the Todd Dickerson conversation on the agenda next time, man. You promised me last time. You said it may not go the way I want it to, but it is going to happen, because this town cannot move forward with what's happened.
Okay, thank you, Jen. I see Rick's hand is raised. Rick?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Kind of want to agree with what Jen said. It's very hard to ask for questions and to get absolutely no response whatsoever from you guys. I mean, you guys are supposed to be representing the people. When the people talk or they have a question like answered, the 4 minutes is up and then it's on to the next person. No discussion about it, nothing. It's very difficult to understand that representing the people who don't really care by your own agendas. Mr. Tazier's made it very clear that he wants to sell for a talk, put it on the disposable list and everything, but then all of a sudden he wants to use it as a backup just in case he can't get the vending to happen out at the, out on the former Air Force Base. So there is a use for it, he has a use for it, but only when it's benefiting him. It benefits a lot of people. And we need to have this conversation. We need to find out what the people want. And hopefully you as the board will listen to the people that you are supposed to represent and not your own personal feelings. And I would just again like to say it's very discouraging to have people ask questions. I'll probably be passed on to the next person. They won't get their questions. It's very frustrating for us. So that's all I wanted to say. You guys have a good night. I'm glad to see that you're doing in-person meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. I see Deborah with a raised hand. Deborah?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'd like to say that I agree with a lot of what Rick just said. He said it's just like a lot of different things. We come on here, we say things, and they just get passed over. But we don't mind, when it comes time for us to pay our taxes, we're on time, we show up, we do what we're supposed to do, but we're paying you guys, and we're not getting answers to a lot of things that we would like to get answers to. I'd like to also say at the beginning that I did not hear the beginning of the meeting. I signed in, and I was not let in until the public comment started. So I missed all of the whatever happened before public comment. So obviously there's a problem. We can continue going on this way, or we can just, you guys can start answering some of our questions. I don't know how we're supposed to get answers. I don't know when we're supposed to get answers, but just ignoring what people have to say doesn't seem like it's a very good way of doing business. One of the things that concerns me is that a lot of things get talked about, and I've mentioned this before, is board meetings that I've been to before, they usually have old business, so that we know, you can revisit some of the things that you guys have talked about before. I know there's several things that I wonder about that have been talked about, and they don't, they just, you guys talk about them and then they just disappear and they're never brought up again. And my last thing would be, minutes. From what I understand, you guys are supposed to put the minutes out within like 8 days of the meeting so that people can look them over and see what has been put into them. I know I even had the correction to Josh today. I don't know if he did the correction. But waiting 3 weeks to see the minutes from the last meeting, I don't think that's appropriate, and I don't, like I've said before, I don't even know if that's legal. My last comment is the Todd Dickerson comment. It still hasn't been addressed. The Crest asked for, emailed them and asked for a comment, nothing. You guys just ignore it. It's something that needs to happen, it's something that should be addressed, and I guess you guys are just going to ignore it, and we're going to keep bringing it up. Maybe we'll have to have another newspaper article about it or something, I don't know. But I don't understand why you won't address it. It was an inappropriate comment. He needs to explain himself. We need to hear an answer, and I don't understand why you don't. What is the purpose of just ignoring it? Because it's not going to go away.
Here, what is she talking about, Todd?
Okay?
Okay.
That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you, Deborah. Okay, is there any more public comment? I don't see any other raised hands.
Yeah, it was supposed to be on the, oops, sorry. Forgot my job over here.
That's annoying.
Yeah.
I was looking up something, sorry.
Okay. Now we know the timer works. All right, any other public comment? Last call for public comment? Great, we are now completed with public comment for tonight's meeting. Moving on to board comments. Do any of the board members have comment this evening?
I'll say it, I'm glad we're in person for the first time after the first year.
It's good to see
So,
everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else? I guess I'll just add thank you to the crew for getting this all set up. It was our first time doing this venue. Obviously, we have a couple of bugs to work out. We will do our best to continue this. You know, again, I feel that we are doing our very best to be as transparent as possible. We are having Zoom meetings, continuing to allow the Zoom meetings when it's not actually even a requirement. So we are now live. You are all more than welcome to come to the meetings. We have a meeting the second and fourth Monday of every month. They are posted on our website. Please come and join us. It's great to see people's faces and be able to talk. We'll work on the sound, we'll work on some other stuff. But I think we had I say thumbs up for our first round. I'm sure I'm gonna have other people that will disagree with that, but thumbs up on that. And we will do our best to move forward on some stuff. I guess Kathy, to your point in regard to the shower, at Ratliff Park, I kind of heard Bob just say that we could amend some of those things in the work plan, so I guess I didn't think that we needed to address it right then and there. I do respect what you said, Larry, that we could have done it and maybe identified that issue and solved it all at once, but I think we still have plenty of time to do that and maybe nail the Air Force for payment to do that. We have a pretty responsive crew now, so wasn't trying to dismiss your comments whatsoever, Kathy. So with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a great night, everybody.
Oh, no problem.
Oh, sorry, it is 9:18 that we are adjourning.
Thank you,
I do see in the minutes, yeah, it did say that that was postponed until this meeting, but it wasn't on the agenda.
Correct.
Yeah.
Winter